Hello governors, welcome to the only Rise of Kingdoms simulations channel, and welcome back if you're a subscriber. We have a few more days before the new archer commanders get introduced to Wheel of Fortune and MGE, so it's a great time for some pre-launch simulations. We'll simulate Gilgamesh as priority. He's the Wheel of Fortune commander, therefore more accessible to the general public. But the real reason you're probably here is to see if he will finally be the commander that beats Zenobia. Before we start, there's an important update to announce. You see this here? Yes, we now have YSS in the simulator replacing Theodora. Many thanks to Uli93 for helping me figure out the shield mechanics. This opened the door to simulations involving all commanders who feature shields, like YSS, Alex, or Leonidas, for example. Also thanks to the same Uli93 and to Loctus X for helping me improve the rage generation mechanics for more accurate simulations. Now, let's first look at Gilgamesh skills within the simulator before we fire up the engines. Okay, here we are. Here are the Gilgamesh skills represented in the simulator. For this example, his primary and Nebu is his secondary. And the reason why I'm setting him up as primary is because he has this 30% enemy health reduction in his active skill, and you want this to trigger right when the secondary commander launches their nuke so that you do more damage. So coming back to Gilgamesh, he deals 1500 damage factor, then he has the enemy health reduction from his active skill. Then he has an interesting one, the all damage bonus when enemy has their strength reduced to under 50%. So this skill is a direct counter to YSS. When YSS's troops are below 50% strength, he gets a damage boost, and that's what makes him incredibly good. What we're seeing here is Gilgamesh will be receiving a similar buff, I think it's 20%, whenever the enemy troops will be lower than 50% strength, which is also when YSS's all damage buff triggers as well. He also gets some stacks of attack, which go all the way to 30%. So every sixth turn, he gets an extra 5%. And ultimately, it ends up with a 30% attack. Very good for very lengthy rallies. Here comes the first part where he is a direct counter to Zenobia. He gets normal damage taken reduction. 15%. This is with the expertise. I think his initial skill is 10% reduction, and then it goes up to 15% when you get him expertised. This is permanent. And I think if things work as with other commanders, this will apply to both normal attacks and counter attacks. So this is very, very good. And why I say this is a direct counter to Zenobia, it's not because it counters an effect, kind of cancels an effect that she has, but more like it matches with the fact that the Zenobia has an additional 15% normal damage dealt increase. So this kind of compensates for that in a similar way to how this other skill compensates for what YSS is doing. And then finally, this is the subject of a lot of discussion, and the main reason why people are thinking, okay, this has to be the Zenobia counter. The damage dealt when enemy heals. So whenever the enemy gets any amount of healing, and we know that Zenobia in a pure 1-to-1 combat or 1 versus 1 combat, Zenobia will get healed twice per skill cycle in consecutive turns. And Gilgamesh, whenever he kind of detects that there's healing taking place, will apply a damage factor of 700 for each healing, as far as we understand from the current skill descriptions. So that means that whenever Zenobia recovers some troops because of healing, he will actually take some troops out by applying this damage factor. Now, I've looked at the numbers, and it looks like this damage factor is going to knock out less troops than Zenobia is actually healing. But please consider that the troops that are wounded can be either severely wounded, dead, or slightly wounded. And only the slightly wounded units get recovered. Dealing additional damage whenever Zenobia gets healed means that he's actually sending some extra units directly to the hospital or killing them for good which is a big bonus against any healer, but Zenobia in particular, because this is what we're discussing now, rally versus garrison situation. And then there's this additional enemy skill damage taken by 15%, which you can see sometimes, or maybe most times, will apply when the secondary commander might be dealing their nuke. So very good to have this feature as well. It leads to more damage generation. As with most archer commanders, he's really prone to dealing damage or enhancing or boosting damage or attack, but he does have this normal damage taken reduction skill as well, which provides some protection. And also, by the way, I forgot to mention the permanent stats from his skills. He gets a flat 20% attack buff and a flat 30% health, which is huge. We already know that health is one of the best things you can boost, and he has it here. So overall, he's very balanced, maybe a bit biased towards dealing a lot of damage. I think the only major thing that he's missing is area of effect damage. Yeah, this is how it looks in the simulator. This is how normally you would think that he's a primary commander. I'm sure there will be exceptions. We'll look at some of those a bit later. Let's see what we have on the menu and get things running. So, as I mentioned, we're going to test Gilgamesh against Zenobia and YSS. And first thing that is very different from what we usually see when we pitch someone against Zenobia is that now they have very balanced equipment sets between them. So this is probably already a hint of what's about to happen. If you watched the previous videos when we tested Harold and Pakal, for example, you saw that I usually gave Zenobia weaker equipment because she was so good, she was destroying absolutely everything. So the only way we could compare rally pairs was to give her some weaker equipment so that the rally pairs also actually have a good chance. Otherwise, it would be quite boring to watch. So this is the first major change, or maybe I should say the second major change. The first one was introducing YSS. So this is now looking at the meta garrison. Now let's see what sort of rallies we're going to test here. We have Gilgamesh with Nebu. So Nebu is seen as one of the main candidates to be a good pair for Gilgamesh. The other one is going to be Ramses. And here we have two combinations where Ramses would be primary and then where Gilgamesh will be primary. Also, we're testing Gilgamesh with YSG and then Gilgamesh Cyrus. And you can see here already I have pre-populated this. These are I don't know, Ramses Nebu is definitely the weapon of choice right now before Gilgamesh gets introduced when it comes to archer rallies against Zenobia. Another option would have been Ramses YSG. I know some people are also using Ramses Cyrus. Either way, I just used two of the main archer rallies for benchmark so we can compare all the Gilgamesh pairs. Let's get the engines running. Okay, so let's have it. First test, Gilgamesh and Nebu against Zenobia YSS. You can see here the equipment. Oh, by the way, I've also added the Ring of Doom and Horn of Fury to both marches, just to be as close as we can get to a real 1v1 situation where I don't think anyone using these pieces of equipment would opt out of using some top quality accessories like the horn and the ring. I hope this makes it more realistic. Let's start it and see what's going to happen. Okay, this is gonna be exciting. Right, well, yeah, now we are seeing 60-70% win rate, and it's now dropping around 50%, 40 to 50%. It's quite undecided. It's still early. We've only seen 13-14% of the simulation. It's now kind of dropping again. So we had a big start for Gilgamesh and Nebu, and then it slightly dropped until it now reached 30 to 40%. Spinning in this area right now, but I have to say this is, I think it's the best result I've seen against Zenobia and YSS. I mean, I've tested Zhang Yu with Chandra and William, and they were doing less than this against Zenobia and Theo, which makes me believe that they would be doing even less against Zenobia and YSS. So this is definitely one big step forward. The fact that we are now almost halfway through the simulation, and this is equal equipment, in terms of how advanced the equipment is, not necessarily equal stats, because neither of these two pairs have equal stats anyways. But yeah, seeing the needle here in the 30-40% area is a huge plus, a big improvement. And just think about it, if you had positive trades when using Zhang Yu, or when using, Harold and Pakal, or Guan Yu, Leonidas, there were a couple of, let's not forget Nebu with Ramses. There were a couple of rallies that sometimes in certain conditions would get good outputs against Zenobia. Now this is going to go to the next level. It's going to be even better. So if you're an experienced player, you'll know that it's really important to keep your structure reinforced, and that's going to improve your output. But it's going to be harder and harder to do that when you see something like this. It's not over 50% yet, so we're now almost done. Remember, there are 300 battles being simulated, and we're now close to the end of that cycle. And let's see where the needle lands. 42%. So we have a 42% win rate. It's not majority. So in a pure one-to-one, with these equipments, and in KVK format, where you have 40% all damage, you also have Crystal Tech attack. By the way, this is not maxed for the simulation. It's set at 20% extra attack from Crystal Tech. So in these particular circumstances for a 1v1, 42% is the best we saw so far. So there you have it. The first thing I'm able to tell you is that next week, after Gilgamesh gets launched, expect to see better results from the rallies than you would have obtained with Zhang Yu. So this is already big news, and I'm glad to be sharing this with you on the Rise of Kingdoms Battle Simulator channel. And yeah, this is very exciting. So finally, we're getting an improvement against Zenobia. Let's note down these results and switch to the next one. Okay, so yeah, big improvement from previous Archer rallies. Now that's a thing of the past. Starting next week, we can see much better win rates, even better than Zhang Yu or whatever other rallies people were using. In the right conditions, Gilgamesh and Nebu will have no problems defeating Zenobia. Yeah, let's move to the next one now. Ramses and Gilgamesh, and Gilgamesh with Ramses. I'm just going to simulate one of them. I'm going to go for Ramses and Gilgamesh, and then I'll just note down the results for the other one as well, see if there are any differences, and attempt to explain them if there are. Okay, so candidate number 1, Nebu, had 42% win rate. Let's see what candidate number 2, Ramses, does when he is primary. Okay, so he's primary, Nebu is secondary. A bit of a slower start than what Nebu had at the beginning, but then Nebu dropped a lot of the advantage he initially gained and ended lower than 50%. Now we're 15% into it, and he's actually going up. I mean, wow. he's over 70% at the moment. Well, yeah, kind of oscillating between 60 and 70% win rate. 25 almost percent of the simulations are done. This is amazing. It's the first time when we can see equally balanced armies, where Zenobia is one of them, right? She's in garrison. We're looking at the meta garrison, guys, and it's being defeated constantly and repeatedly by another rally in a pure 1 versus 1, right? So let's just quickly recap what's happening here. We are looking at 1 versus 1 situations. There's no reinforcements. No additional buffs like, I don't know, a Constantine battling somewhere nearby or Joan of Arc or anything. This is a pure 1 versus 1. They battle it until the end 300 times. So when this reaches 100% here, that's 300 battles. And we're doing 300 battles to reduce variation caused by randomness. And with all of this in mind, we are witnessing history in Rise of Kingdoms. This sort of situation where Zenobia gets kicked like over 70%. That's huge. It's a huge improvement compared to what we previously had. It's even a huge improvement compared to what we saw earlier with Nebu secondary to Gilgamesh. And this should also answer the question as to, okay, who's going to be the preferred partner for Gilgamesh? It looks like Ramses is going to be the partner. And I know there was some debate as to, I don't know, is the healing cancellation going to work with what Gilgamesh is doing, applying damage whenever the healing is done by Zenobia. I'll get back to that right now. We have a final result. So 300 battles simulated, 73% win rate. It's huge. I'll say no more about it, and that's it. Okay, so let's discuss a bit about healing cancellation from Ramses and the 700 damage factor applied from Gilgamesh whenever he detects, to say so, some healing done by Zenobia. I think they're both going to work. So just to be on the safe side and not overestimate what Gilgamesh is capable of, for the purpose of this simulation, I considered the following scenario. Whenever the healing is cancelled by Ramses, Gilgamesh would not deal the damage. But what I really think will happen is that both will take place. So even when Ramses cancels the healing, because he actually cancels the number, if you check the report, what he does is he doesn't prevent the healing skill from being casted by Zenobia. Zenobia casts the skill, and then Ramses cancels the healing effect. And I think, because that's what's happening, I think Gilgamesh will be able to apply the damage factor on top of what Ramses is doing. Taken one for one, the healing cancellation versus the 700 damage factor done per healing, the cancellation is stronger. Now imagine combining them. It's going to be huge. I mean, it's the result is going to be even better than what you see here right now. I'll say no more because I want you to look at the results when Gilgamesh is primary and Ramses is secondary. So I'll see you on the next screen. We're going to look at both results and analyze them a bit. Okay, so here we are. We saw the 73% win rate when Ramses was primary. Now, when Gilgamesh is primary and Ramses is secondary, it really drops a lot to 21%. This is a huge difference. You might wonder, okay, why is this happening? And I think just by looking at the simulations, and again, pure 1 versus 1 situation, the fact that Ramses is secondary means that his healing cancellation will be very unlikely to land on Zenobia's healing while Zenobia is primary. So they will, of course, have some variations in skill cycles. So it could be like every 7 seconds, every 8 seconds, and it will alternate between those values, for example. However, if Ramses is secondary, he's going to miss the opportunity to get the healing cancellation in place. You see here, this is the no healing debuff from Ramses, and it lasts only 2 seconds, so it's very important for it to land where it's supposed to land. If it doesn't, it's a waste. Now, Gilgamesh, on the other hand, has this better frequency. He has a 30% chance, and it lasts for 4 seconds. And the effect of that is, you can watch here this 15% represented. You see it's almost continuous. I mean, okay, let's not exaggerate. Maybe it's like 70% of the time active when it's supposed to be active. And you can see here the damage dealt. You see, why do we have here only one instance? It's because Zenobia most likely healed first here, when the effect was not active yet. And then when she did her second heal the following turn, that's when the effect from Gilgamesh became active and Zenobia takes the damage. Same situation here. And then here, because of the randomness in skill cycles, because of how rage is being gained, actually both of them land when Zenobia does both of the healing rounds. And then here you see there's nothing, because there's no healing being done by Zenobia while this was active. And then there's 2 again. So overall, because of the higher uptime, it's a much better chance for Gilgamesh to land this effect at the right time compared to Ramses, which only has a 2-second time frame. Him being primary actually increases that probability. Again, I'm not taking into account situations where you have a lot of rage modifiers, like, I don't know, someone could be swarming, which increases the rage. There could be Joan involved as well, so anything that could modify the skill cycles in a way that it's no longer an advantage to Ramses. The fact that you're seeing here no healing, it doesn't mean that there was supposed to be healing in this turn and then it wasn't because Ramses procced it. This is just the flag for the effect, so it doesn't work in the same way as the damage factor number here. They're designed slightly differently in the simulator. I think the key takeaway, if you're looking at Ramses' kill, key takeaway from this view is that his no healing effect is only over 2 seconds, right? It's not the same sort of mechanic that governs how you see the numbers showing in this part of the screen. Okay, so coming back to this view, this could be a reason. And actually in the simulator, this is the reason why we are having less effectiveness. There are other things like what the talents are about. And speaking of talents, by the way, these are the talents I've used for Ramses primary. All right, so all the way into effortless. This one too gets 2 out of 3. I want him to get more rage, so I'm giving him this talent right here. So yeah, of course, the talents will play a role as well. The attack tree is very good for this purpose. So let's put that back in place. I just realized I got too excited about it. I didn't speak about the Gilgamesh talents. So this is the talent tree I'm using for Gilgamesh. I don't know if it's the best one, right? I suspect it is, but I'm thinking also where we are giving him full rage generation could be an option. Maybe giving him this talent right here could be another option, but then this part is also very good, so hard to say. That could be the topic for another video, but all in all, I strongly believe that Ramses primary will produce better results than Ramses secondary when combined with Gilgamesh. Is it going to be this big of a gap between them? Really depends on the situation. You're rarely going to find a 1 versus 1 scenario with no major modifiers to rage. So if the skill cycles get more balanced, I think this number could be dropping a bit, so decreased efficiency of having Ramses primary, and this number could be going up a bit. But either way, I still think that in most cases, Ramses primary will be the best choice, at least until now. And then between these 3 rallies, Gilgamesh Nebu would come in second, and then Gilgamesh Ramses would come in third, most likely. Let's quickly look at Gilgamesh YSG and Gilgamesh Cyrus. This video is getting very lengthy, so I'm just gonna enter the results and then we'll comment a bit on them. Okay, so I've added here the fact that performance is sensitive to skill cycles being modified by rage mechanics. So that means this number might be lower and this number might be higher. There's a lot of variation. And I've added the results for Gilgamesh YSG and Gilgamesh Cyrus. When it comes to YSG, the results are a bit surprising to me. I'm surprised to see that the score is higher than Gilgamesh Nebu. I noticed that Gilgamesh and Nebu are dealing more normal damage than Gilgamesh YSG, and that's because Nebu has, I think, 15%, if I'm not mistaken, all damage dealt, which includes the normal and counterattack damage. So what I'm trying to say is I'm expecting Gilgamesh and YSG to be less efficient than Gilgamesh Nebu when it comes to severely wounded units. So in a pure 1v1, maybe YSG is going to be a bit better, like the win rate suggests. When you add in reinforcements and everything else into the mix, and you look at the report at the end, and you're expecting to see more severely wounded units, then Nebu is probably going to be the better choice. And then we have Cyrus. Yeah, this is a bit of a flop. He's not actually doing well at all. He's like very similar to the benchmark. So I think the conclusion, if you are to take anything from this video, first thing, Gilgamesh is going to be the best, the very best commander to rally Zenobia with. And then for the secondary commander, use whatever was best previously. You know, one of the two that were previously best, Ramses or Nebu. If you're using Ramses primary, I think you're going to have the advantage. You can see it here. Based on the simulations, the advantage is going to be huge, even with this disclaimer here. So yeah, I'm going to put my approved stamp on Ramses and Gilgamesh as the best rally choice. There's also Amanitoria to talk about. She's going to be part of another video. I really hope I can test and publish the video before Monday. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to, because it takes a very long time to set commanders up. I know you guys are very eager, so I hope you appreciate what you're seeing here. To have these results and estimations based on simulations before the commanders are launched. Of course, as the disclaimer says here, some skill descriptions and game mechanics may be different in-game compared to simulations, usually due to inaccurate descriptions. So yeah, take it with a grain of salt, but this thing has proven to be accurate so far. Yeah, I really hope you appreciate it, and see you next time. Cheers!